Buffalo, 1999. Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Dominik Hasek throws his body across the crease, his legs in the air, his stick nowhere near where a goalie stick should be. Somehow, impossibly, the puck stays out of the net. The crowd erupts. Commentators struggle to explain what just happened. This wasn't in any coaching manual. This was pure Hasek. Dominik Hasek wasn't just one of the best goalies in NHL history. He was a revolution on skates. With 6 Vezina Trophies, 2 Hart Trophies as league MVP, and 2 Stanley Cups to his name, Hasek's trophy case speaks for itself, but numbers and awards only tell part of the story. What truly sets Hasek apart was how he transformed the very nature of goaltending, challenging every notion of how the position should be played. While other goalies followed textbook techniques, Hasek wrote his own rules. His impact wasn't just about the saves he made, but how he made them, with a style so unique it forced the entire hockey world to rethink what was possible between the pipes. Born in Pardubice, Czechoslovakia in 1965, Hasek developed his skills behind the Iron Curtain, far from North American hockey influences. This isolation proved crucial. Without North American goaltending coaches drilling standard techniques into him, Hasek was free to develop a style based purely on stopping the puck by any means necessary. The 1980s and early 1990s saw North American goaltending dominated by the butterfly style, goalies dropping to their knees with pads flared out, covering the bottom of the net. It was clean, predictable, and effective. Then came Hasek, who looked like he was playing an entirely different sport. Hasek's approach was reactive rather than positional. While other goalies set up in standard stances and moved according to set patterns, Hasek read the play and responded with whatever body part would stop the puck. Sometimes this meant rolling onto his back while kicking a leg in the air, the famous Hasek Roll. Other times he'd stack his pads horizontally or dive headfirst into shots. He'd even throw his stick if necessary. "I don't have a style," Hasek once explained. "I just try to stop the puck." This simple philosophy masked the extraordinary reflexes, flexibility, and hockey intelligence that allowed him to pull off saves others wouldn't even attempt. When Hasek first arrived in the NHL in 1990 as a Chicago Blackhawks backup, scouts and coaches were baffled. His flopping, diving, and unorthodox movements seemed chaotic and unsustainable. Opposing players thought he would be easy to beat once they figured him out. They were wrong. What looked like desperation was actually calculated improvisation. Hasek's seemingly wild movements were backed by exceptional tracking skills and anticipation. He could read releases and trajectories better than perhaps any goalie before him, allowing him to get some part of his equipment in front of almost any shot. Most importantly, Hasek's unpredictability became his greatest weapon. Shooters trained their entire careers to exploit the known weaknesses of standard goaltending techniques suddenly found themselves facing a goalie who didn't follow any recognizable pattern. How do you find a weakness in a style that has no fixed position? As one frustrated shooter put it, with other goalies, there's a right place to put the puck. With Hasek, there's nowhere safe. The psychological age turned the tables on offensive players, making them overthink their shots and second-guess their instincts. What began as a curiosity would soon become a sensation that changed goaltending forever. When Hasek arrived in the NHL, traditionalists dismissed him as a curiosity, a European oddity whose strange techniques would never hold up against the world's best shooters. Goaltending coaches winced at his form, general managers questioned his durability, and commentators regularly predicted his style would be figured out within a season or two. The hockey establishment had good reason for skepticism. For decades, goaltending had evolved along clear, methodical lines. From stand-up styles to the refined butterfly technique popularized by Patrick Roy, successful goalies followed established patterns. Coaches taught young goalies to make themselves big, to maintain proper angles, and to follow textbook movements. Hasek seemed to ignore these fundamentals entirely. His path to proving the doubters wrong wasn't immediate. After being drafted 199th overall by the Chicago Blackhawks in 1983, Hasek spent years as a backup, first in Chicago behind Ed Belfour. The Blackhawks, not fully understanding what they had, traded him to the Buffalo Sabres in 1992 for the equivalent of hockey pocket change, goaltender Stefan Beauregard, and a 4th-round draft pick. In Buffalo, Hasek finally got his chance to start regularly. What happened next stunned the hockey world. By the 1993-94 season, his numbers weren't just good, they were historic. His .930 save percentage and 1.95 goals against average set new standards for goaltending excellence. He won his first Vezina Trophy as the league's best goaltender that year, then repeated the feat in 1995. Still, critics questioned whether his style was sustainable. They called him a flash in the pan, claimed his success was due to Buffalo's defensive system, or suggested he was just on a hot streak. Hasek answered with consistency that couldn't be ignored. Between 1994 and 1999, he won 6 Vezina Trophies in 7 years. More impressively, he won the Hart Trophy as league MVP in 1997 and 1998, the first goaltender to win multiple Hart Trophies since the 1960s. His 1998 performance at the Nagano Olympic silenced any remaining doubters. Representing the Czech Republic, Hasek shut out Team Canada in a semifinal shootout where he faced the world's elite shooters Wayne Gretzky, Joe Sakic, Ray Bourque, Eric Lindros, and Brendan Shanahan, and stopped them all. The Czech Republic went on to win gold, with Hasek allowing just 2 goals in the entire tournament. This international success proved Hasek's dominance wasn't a product of any particular NHL system or favorable coaching. He simply stopped pucks better than anyone else, regardless of the setting. A fundamental shift began to occur. Coaches who had criticized Hasek's technique started to study it. Hockey analysts who had dismissed him began to recognize the method behind what they'd mistaken for madness. His style wasn't about abandoning fundamentals, but about expanding the very definition of what goaltending could be. The paradigm had shifted. Instead of asking when Hasek would conform to traditional goaltending standards, the hockey world began to wonder what elements of his innovative approach could be adopted by others. The question was no longer whether Hasek's style worked. The 6 Vezina Trophies had answered that decisively, but how his revolution would shape the future of the position. Hasek's impact on goaltending extends far beyond his own remarkable career. As his success mounted, a new generation of goaltenders began to incorporate elements of his style into their own games. While few could match his extraordinary flexibility and reflexes, many adopted his aggressive puck tracking and reactive approach. Look closely at today's NHL goalies, and you'll see traces of Hasek everywhere. Henrik Lundqvist's active blocker, Marc-Andre Fleury's acrobatic recoveries, and Jonathan Quick's aggressive pushes across the crease all carry echoes of the Dominator's innovations. These modern stars might use more structure-based techniques, but they've added Hasek-inspired improvisation when standard positioning isn't enough. Perhaps the clearest example is Hasek's influence on his fellow Czech, Petr Mrazek, who grew up idolizing him and has incorporated many of Hasek's desperate-looking but effective save techniques. He showed us that sometimes you need to break the rules, Mrazek once explained, to make the save that shouldn't be possible. The revolution extended to coaching as well. Goaltending instruction, before Hasek emphasized rigid positioning and standard technique. After Hasek, coaches began to value athleticism, flexibility, and creative problem-solving alongside traditional fundamentals. Today's goalie coaches talk about control, chaos, and athletic recovery, concept that would have been dismissed in the pre-Hasek era. This shift is evident in how young goalies are now developed. Modern training incorporates exercises to improve flexibility, reaction time, and the ability to make saves from non-standard positions. What was once considered poor technique is now recognized as valuable adaptability. Goalie camps now include drills specifically designed to practice recovery saves and reaction-based stops that Hasek pioneered. Equipment manufacturers responded to Hasek's influence too. His success demonstrated the importance of mobility and padding that could protect goalies making unorthodox movements. This led to the development of more flexible pads, gloves designed for quick reactions rather than just blocking, and chest protectors that allow greater range of motion while maintaining protection. Rule changes also reflect Hasek's impact. His ability to scramble and recover so effectively led to discussions about what constituted goalie interference as players increasingly tried to prevent these athletic recoveries. The NHL has repeatedly refined these rules, in part because Hasek showed just how much ground a determined goalie could cover. Perhaps most significantly, Hasek's success helped open doors for European goaltenders. Before his arrival, NHL teams were often skeptical of European netminders, believing North American goalies were better suited to the NHL style of play. Hasek shattered that myth completely. In his wake, teams began scouting Europe more seriously for goaltending talent, leading to stars like Henrik Lundqvist, Tuukka Rask, and Andrei Vasilevsky becoming franchise goaltenders. The numbers tell the story. Before Hasek's rise to prominence, European goalies were rare in the NHL. Today, they make up roughly a third of the league's netminders, with many among the game's elite. This demographic shift represents one of the most concrete aspects of Hasek's legacy. He didn't just change how the position was played, but who got the opportunity to play it at the highest level. When Hasek was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2014, Citation didn't just celebrate his statistics, but acknowledge him as a transformative figure who redefined the parameters of his position. This recognition confirms what players, coaches, and fans had already observed. Goaltending has a clear dividing line before Hasek and after Hasek. While Hasek's physical innovations changed what goalies did on the ice, his mental approach transformed how they prepared of it. Behind the seemingly chaotic movements was a mind working at extraordinary levels of focus and determination. Hasek's mental game might be his most important, yet least visible, contribution to goaltending. Hasek's competitive mindset was legendary. Teammates often shared stories of his intensity during practices, where he hated to give up goals even in casual drills. Former Sabres coach Lindy Ruff once noted, Dom brought the same determination to a Tuesday morning practice in November that he did to a playoff game. This relentless competitiveness raised standards for what mental engagement looked like at the position. His preparation routines were equally influential. Hasek was one of the first goalies to extensively study video of opposing shooters, learning their tendencies and preferred shot locations. What now seems standard practice was revolutionary when Hasek began doing it consistently in the 1990s. Today, pre-game preparation involving video study is mandatory for NHL goalies, with teams employing goalie coaches who prepare detailed reports on opponents' shooting patterns. Hasek's approach to practice sessions was particularly transformative. Rather than just going through traditional movement drills, he created scenarios that challenged his reflexes and decision-making. He would have teammates shoot from unexpected angles or fire pucks while he was deliberately out of position. This approach to practice, creating controlled chaos to improve adaptability, has become standard in modern goalie development. The mental stamina Hasek displayed throughout his career set new expectations for the position. Goaltending had always been considered mentally demanding, but Hasek showed that elite goalies needed elite concentration. His ability to maintain focus throughout entire games, making split-second decisions on every play, demonstrated that modern goaltending was as much a mental challenge as a physical one. Hasek elevated goaltending from position defined by technique to an athletic art form. Before him, goalie evaluation focused heavily on form and positioning. After Hasek, the conversation expanded to include adaptability, creativity, and mental processing speed. He showed that the position demanded not just technical proficiency, but artistic interpretation. A goalie needed to read and react to developing plays with the same creative freedom as the game's best offensive players. The psychological impact Hasek had on shooters cannot be overstated. Many NHL forwards admitted to overthinking their shots when facing him. Steve Yzerman once explained, with most goalies, you aim for the open spot. With Dom, you're worried about where he might suddenly appear. This mental age, making shooters doubt their own decisions, became something modern goalies strive to develop. His unpredictability created a competitive advantage that went beyond physical skills. Hasek understood something profound. Uncertainty is a powerful defensive weapon. By constantly varying his approaches, he forced shooters to think rather than simply react, often causing them to hesitate just long enough for their advantage to disappear. Modern goaltending instruction now includes the psychological element, the value of occasionally breaking patterns to create doubt in shooters' minds. Perhaps most importantly, Hasek demonstrated the immense value of self-trust. In a position where coaches typically dictated strict techniques, he trusted his instincts and natural abilities. This confidence to follow his own path, despite criticism, showed future goalies that personal innovation could coexist with fundamental principles. When young goalies today are encouraged to develop their own style within a framework of sound principles, they're benefiting from the mental freedom Hasek fought to establish. His legacy isn't just in the spectacular saves or statistical achievements, but in the permission he gave future generations to think creatively about a position while maintaining absolute competitive focus. When we look at Dominik Hasek's place in hockey history, we see more than just a great goaltender. We see a revolutionary who forever changed what was possible at his position. His impact reaches far beyond his impressive collection of trophies and statistical achievements. Before Hasek, goaltending was evolving along a predictable path. The butterfly style was becoming standardized, with goalies increasingly looking and playing alike. Hasek disrupted this pattern completely. He showed that there was room for individual expression, creativity, and innovation in a position that was becoming increasingly technical and uniform. The true measure of his influence is seen in how goaltending is taught and evaluated today. Modern goaltending incorporates both structure and improvisation. Coaches teach fundamental positioning but also encourage athletic recovery and reactive play. This balanced approach is Hasek's direct legacy. He didn't make traditional technique obsolete. He expanded goaltending's horizons to include new possibilities. Equipment, training methods, and coaching philosophies have all evolved in response to Hasek's innovations. Goaltending camps now include flexibility and reaction drills alongside traditional movement patterns. Pads are designed for both blocking and mobility. Video analysis is standard practice. these developments can be traced directly to the door Hasek opened with his success. Perhaps most importantly, Hasek redefined what it meant to be elite at a position. Before him, the perfect goalie was technically flawless and positionally sound. After him, the conversation expanded to include athleticism, creativity, mental toughness, and adaptability. The definition of greatness became more inclusive, allowing for different paths to success. Sports evolved when iconoclasts challenged conventions. Baseball had Babe Ruth, basketball had Michael Jordan, hockey had Wayne Gretzky, and goaltending had Dominik Hasek, an athlete whose unique approach didn't just succeed within the existing framework, but expanded what that framework could contain. Today's young goalies may not fully realize it, but when they make a desperate save that doesn't look textbook, when they trust their reflexes over rigid positioning, when they develop their own unique styles within the position, they're building on the freedom Hasek fought to establish. They are the beneficiaries of a revolution that began with a flexible, determined Czech goaltender who refused to play by the old rules. The history of hockey, like the history of any sport, is marked by individuals who didn't just play the game exceptionally well, but changed how the game itself was played. Dominik Hasek stands firmly in this category, not just a Hall of Famer, not just a champion, but a transformative figure who showed us that sometimes the best way forward isn't doing the same things better, but doing different things entirely. In the end, Hasek's greatest save wasn't any particular spectacular stop he made during his career. It was saving goaltending itself from becoming predictable, standardized, and limited. For that, the sport of hockey will be forever in his debt.